I always tell my clients the same thing. If you're calling me at 3 a.m., either your house is haunted or your love life is. Both are equally cursed. That night, it was the first kind. A woman named Vanessa had messaged me on Signal with a photo of a cracked mirror. She said it whispered her name. And of course, because I have the self-preservation instincts of a moth near a candle, I agreed to check it out. Now, before you think I'm just another psychic TikToker with sage sticks and fake eyelashes, let me clarify. I actually do the work. Freelance psychic, licensed by the Order of Saint Lysandra, a private network of seers, healers, and exorcists run by my mentor, Father Solomon. Yes, that Solomon. The man who once made a demon cry with a hymn and a cup of holy espresso. He's a reincarnated angel, at least that's what he says. I've never asked for proof because he pays me well and never lies about the dangerous part of a job. That night, he only said, "Do not stare too long into the mirror, Leela. Some reflections stare back harder." I texted him back, "Sure thing, Halo boy." He didn't reply, which was fine. Angels are busy. By the time I got to Vanessa's apartment, the building looked like every other sad urban tombstone. Old beige paint, broken elevator, one flickering hallway light doing its best to qualify as horror movie ambiance. Vanessa opened the door before I could knock. Her hair was wild, and her eyes had that 1,000-yard glare people get after insomnia or possession. Sometimes both. "Are you the psychic?" she whispered. "No, I'm the pizza delivery girl with a side of exorcism," I said. She didn't laugh. Tough crowd. Inside, the air smelled like metal and jasmine. Not a great combo. And then I saw it. The mirror. About 5 feet tall, black frame carved with symbols that shouldn't exist outside a demon auction. Its surface was darker than glass, like liquid night. "Where did you get that?" I asked, setting down my blessed kit bag. Vanessa hesitated. "An antique shop in the old quarter. The owner said it would change my fate." I thought it was a metaphor. People always do. I pulled out my charm, a small pendant etched with the sigil of Lysandra, my order's patron angel. It glowed faintly when danger was near. It didn't just glow, it burned. "Oh, fantastic," I muttered. "Cursed object with a side of infernal residue. My favorite." Vanessa wrung her hands. It's been showing me things. I saw myself winning the lottery, then dying the next day, and then last night I saw you." "Me?" She nodded. "You were screaming." That's when the mirror rippled. I swear to every holy light in the underworld, it moved like water. And in that moving darkness, I saw my reflection. Except her eyes weren't mine. They were hungry. Now, I've dealt with cursed objects before. A possessed doll that tried to smother its owner, a ghost that lived in an Alexa speaker. But this was old magic. Predatory. Like it was alive. I began the cleansing, prayer beads wrapped around my wrist, voice steady. "Blessed be the light that severs false reflection." The mirror laughed. Not echoing, not distorted, just laughed like a person standing right beside me. "Do you wish to trade, Leela Marin? Your fate for fortune, your time for beauty, your soul for power?" "Sorry, I'm already self-employed. Try LinkedIn." Then something cold brushed my neck. A whisper crawling down my spine. My reflection smiled wider. Behind her, a shadow bloomed. Tall. Robed. Impossible to see fully, but the air grew heavy. That's when I realized Vanessa wasn't breathing. She was standing in front of the mirror, eyes blank, as if she'd been turned off. I grabbed the nearest bless seal and pressed it against her forehead. "Vanessa, stay with me." The pendant around my neck flared again, blinding light. The mirror screamed. I mean, really screamed, like glass fracturing in a throat that shouldn't exist. When it stopped, the frame was cracked again, but now there was a handprint from the inside, pressed from the other side. Vanessa gasped and collapsed. The mirror was silent. The air cleared. Job done, or so I thought, because when I packed up to leave, my reflection winked at me. The hell? Did I have too much coffee today? Maybe. The next morning, I woke up to an email titled, "Payment for the mirror case, pending review." Fantastic. Because obviously risking my life for Cursed Antiques wasn't enough, now I had to chase invoices, too. I made myself coffee so strong it could qualify as holy water, scrolled through messages, and noticed something odd. A new client had booked me overnight. Name, Elias Crow. Address, none. Contact, none. Just a note, "You're already expected." I should have ignored it, but curiosity is my most toxic trait. I told myself I'd just check it out, which is what people in horror movies say before dying stupidly. The location led me downtown, to a glass building that screamed money. Black cars, mirrored windows, a fountain shaped like a serpent eating its tail. Inside, the air smelled expensive and dangerous. A receptionist guided me up without a word. When the elevator doors opened, he was waiting. Elias Crow looked like someone who owned several islands and at least one cult. Tall, white suit, eyes sharp enough to cut diamonds. Behind him, that mirror. Clean now, whole, and alive. "Miss Marin," he said, smiling, "I've heard much about you. Funny, I haven't heard anything about you, and I do background checks." He chuckled. "I imagine Father Solomon would disapprove of your sarcasm. He was always too soft." That made my stomach drop. "You know my master?" "Oh, intimately. He exorcised my mother once. She didn't survive." He said it like a man talking about a broken vase, not a person. Then he gestured toward the mirror. "Do you know what this is? A lawsuit waiting to happen?" He smiled wider. "It's a black mirror of even fate. It allows the user to trade destinies, to steal luck, wealth, even years of life from one reflection to another." Yeah, that sounds illegal and evil and something I'm going to smash with a hammer. Elias didn't move. "You can't. It's bound to me." He stepped closer, voice like velvet over knives. "But you could share it. You could be rich beyond measure, beautiful forever. You'd never need to work another cursed night again." I stared at him. Tempting. But I already have beauty, sarcasm, and crippling taxes, the holy trinity of freelance life. He laughed softly. "You are your master's student indeed." Then he leaned in. "But tell me, Lila, what if I told you your fortune has already been stolen?" "What?" He pointed to the mirror. My reflection blinked a second before I did, and this time it wasn't smiling. It was pleading. I took a step back. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Elias said calmly. The mirror did. You touched it last night, didn't you? I didn't. I froze. I had brushed it when I lifted Vanessa. And there it was, the rookie mistake. One accidental touch, one moment of human reflex, and now I was property of a shiny demon accountant. Elias's smile widened. Then it has your mark. The reflection mouthed something, slowly, clearly. He's lying. The air rippled. The mirror pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and my pendant burned so hot it cracked. Elias tilted his head, watching. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, I heard him whisper, "Let's see whose fate truly belongs to whom." The moment the lights died, instinct took over. I pressed my pendant to my chest and whispered the old prayer Solomon had drilled into me long before I could afford caffeine or confidence. When light is gone, call for the one within. The air stilled, heavy like a held breath. Then something laughed. It wasn't human laughter. Too smooth, too deliberate. It rolled through the dark like a hand across glass. I raised my flashlight, beam slicing through the dust and gloom. The mirror stood at the far wall, its black surface faintly rippling, reflecting not me, but a version of the room that looked wrong. Brighter, cleaner, untouched by decay. And in that reflection, Elias Crow was kneeling. He wasn't moving in real life. He stood beside me, silent. But his reflection was praying, lips moving in some language that felt older than reason. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. Elias smiled. The real one, not the mirror one. His grin was razor-thin, smug. "Balancing the books, Miss Marin. You know how it is. The living waste their luck, their years, their love. I just reallocate." "Reallocate," I echoed. "You're a walking tax scam for souls." He laughed softly. "You charge for salvation. I charge for prosperity. We're not so different." "Yeah, except I sleep fine at night." His smile deepened. "Do you?" The mirror pulsed once, like it was breathing. Then my reflection blinked. Only mine. For a second, I saw myself grin back, sharp and hollow-eyed. "Okay, that's new." Elias turned toward a sleek black laptop on his desk. He tapped a few keys. A spreadsheet appeared on the screen, rows of names, numbers, and dates. One glowed faintly. Lila Marin, fate exchange pending, value 27 years. My stomach dropped. I didn't take your years," he said lightly. "I traded them." "For what?" He turned the screen again. E. Crow, value plus 27 years. I moved, fast, but the lights flickered, the air split with static, and when they steadied again, he was gone. Only the mirror remained, humming faintly, satisfied, like it had just eaten. I don't remember leaving the building. Just the sound of traffic fading behind me and the echo of his laugh sitting in my skull like a migraine. The next thing I knew, cold air slept me awake outside, the city spinning by in smears of neon. My reflection in the car window looked wrong. Dull. Unanchored. When I finally looked down, I saw the crack running through my pendant. The blessing Solomon had pressed into it years ago had fractured clean in half. I swallowed hard. It wasn't just magic. It was him. The chapel was empty when I arrived. Candles burned low, filling the air with that faint beeswax warmth that always reminded me of him. Solomon was there. Not startled, not angry. just quietly waiting, as if he'd known the moment I walked in. He set his book aside and studied me over the rims of his glasses. "You've seen something," he said softly. "Yeah," my voice scraped. "Something that wants to turn my lifespan into store credit." His brow furrowed, that slight, thoughtful crease that always made him look like he was deciding between prayer and scolding. "Sit," he said. I did. It wasn't really a request. I told him everything. The mirror, the reflection, the spreadsheet of stolen lives. He didn't interrupt once, just listened, fingers tracing lazy circles over his rosary beads. When I finished, he exhaled through his nose, that kind of quiet sigh that meant, "Of course, you found trouble again." He said, "It sounds like the ebon mirror, or at least a shard of it, one of 7. They bind to a life and rewrite its course." "Yeah, well, it's currently drafting me into unemployment." His mouth quirked. Not a smile, but close. "You joke too much when frightened." "It's either that or cry, and crying stains my eyeliner." That almost got him to laugh. Almost. He stood, walked to the small cable near the altar, and fetched something from a drawer. A tiny glass vial filled with what looked like silver dust. He poured a bit onto my cracked pendant, murmuring a blessing too quiet for me to catch. When he was done, the crack glowed faintly, then dimmed, sealing only halfway. "It won't hold long," he said. "He's linked your years to the mirror. You'll start to feel it soon." "Feel what?" "The pull. Exhaustion, misfortune, decay. The mirror doesn't just take time, it spends it." "On him," I said. He nodded. "On Elias Crow. You'll need to turn the mirror against its master." "And how do I do that?" "Make it show truth instead of lies." I arched my eyebrow. "That's not a how. That's a riddle." "That's faith," he corrected. I groaned softly. "Every time you say that, something terrible happens." His lips twitched again. "Then you've learned well." He hesitated a moment, as if deciding whether to say more, then added, "I may not be here for a few days. A request came in from Rome. Serious business. You and Rose will need to manage things on your own for a bit." "Great," I muttered. "The universe is collapsing and you're off doing celestial paperwork." He actually smiled this time. Faint, tired, affectionate. "Someone must keep the bureaucracy of heaven running, my child." I stood to leave, but he caught my wrist lightly. A simple touch, warm, steadying. For a second, he just looked at me. No lecture, no blessing. Just that faint liquor of worry behind calm eyes. He said, "Be careful." "I always am." "That's not true." I smiled a little. "But it sounds nice." Outside, dawn was bleeding into the sky. My reflection stared back at me from the car window, tired, paler than I remembered. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the leftover static in my head. Then I saw it. The rearview mirror was cracked. Hairline splits webbing out like veins, and written across the glass, faintly fogged, were 4 words. "Debt paid in advance." For a second, my brain refused to process it. Then the meaning slammed in all at once. Crow hadn't just linked me. He'd finalized it. I'd walked straight into his deal. No coercion, no ritual circle, no midnight summons. I'd just been me. Curious, confident, thinking I was the smartest person in the cursed building. And that smug bastard used it to seal the contract. "Oh, you son of a..." I slammed my palm against the steering wheel so hard the horn blared, echoing through the empty street. Of course, a freaking course. Trap me with paperwork, classic occult accountant move. I laughed, that thin, manic kind of laugh that sits right between anger and panic. Should have known the devil's favorite tool wasn't temptation or sin, it's fine print. My breath fogged the cracked mirror again, and the letters shimmered faintly like they were laughing back at me. Enjoy your borrowed years, Crow, because I'm coming to collect. That's when the radio clicked on by itself. Static at first, then a voice, smooth and amused. Thank you for your years, Miss Marin. They taste divine. I froze, every hair on my arm standing up. The reflection in the mirror flickered. My face, then his, then mine again. And behind his smirk, I could see my own shadow start to fade. I didn't scream. I just stared and whispered, Crow, you have no idea who you just pissed off. By the time I stumbled through the college gates, I wasn't walking. I was buffering. Reality lagged half a second behind every blink, like my life was running on bad Wi-Fi. I'd handled cursed heirlooms, banshees, even a haunted blender once. But this was new. This was inside. The mirror hadn't just cursed me, it had installed itself in my bloodstream. Rose was the first to notice. She was sitting under the library stone archway, hoodie up, coffee in hand, watching the world like she owned it. And technically, she sort of did. Her family's donations kept this place running. She spotted me across the courtyard and frowned. You look like a corpse that's late for midterms. Good, I said. Maybe they'll let me graduate posthumously. She stood, blocking my path. Leela, you're twitching. Yeah, it's my new cardio. She grabbed my wrist, her grip firm, grounding, but not gentle. You're cold. I tried to yank away. That's because my soul's currently in escrow. Her eyes narrowed. Father Solomon told me you'd say something like that. I froze. He talked to you? Rose nodded, expression unreadable. Yesterday. Said he's handling something beyond the veil, can't return for a while, asked me to keep you alive and, quote, out of mirrors. I laughed too sharply. Yeah, too late. We walked across campus, students parting around us like we carried invisible warning signs. Most avoided me because of my attitude. The rest avoided Rose because of her aura, the kind of holiness that made people question their last confession. Our dorm sat at the far edge of the grounds, ivy creeping up the walls like gossip. Inside, Rose's half was immaculate, holy texts, candles, silver crucifixes. My half looked like a psychic tornado had passed through. Salt circles, mismatched charms, a half-eaten croissant of questionable age. As soon as the door closed, Rose crossed her arms. Sit. Talk. I dropped onto my bed, the mattress sighing under the weight of my existence. I touched the mirror. It attached. Crow said I owe him 27 years. I thought I could burn the link, but now your reflection's acting like a stalker, she finished for me. Yeah, except it's got better cheekbones. Rose sighed, half amused, half concerned. It'll be fine, Leela. We've faced worse. As we grow stronger, our challenges grow with us. We just have to tough it out, like the roar of a tiger. She pressed a small vial of holy water into my hand, whispering a short prayer before I could protest. The moment I drank, warmth spread through me, calm, steady, grounding. Sleep, she said softly. You'll need it. And somehow I did. What would I even do without her? After that incident, a good night's sleep became a luxury. At first, I thought it was just the pipes or my brain decompressing from too much caffeine. But then I started hearing names. My mother's, my father's, Crow's, all spoken in my own voice. Then came the dreams. I'd wake up drenched, heart clawing at my ribs, staring into the dark where the mirror in our room sat covered with a sheet. Sometimes it moved. Just slightly, like it was breathing. Rose never asked about the screaming. She just kept the lights on and set a glass of holy water on my nightstand like a silent, I told you so. By the third day, I could barely stand. My hands shook, my vision doubled, and I started forgetting little things, faces, times, whole conversations. It was like the mirror was feeding on memory now that my life wasn't enough. Rose came back from class and found me hunched over the sink, staring at the cracked pendant. Leela. Her voice softened, the preacher's daughter fading into a friend. You need to rest. I met her eyes in the mirror above the sink, but my reflection didn't look back. It just smiled. I stumbled away, slamming my shoulder into the wall. Did you see that? Rose didn't flinch. Yes? You're awfully calm about my evil twin grinning like she just got tenure. She set her bag down, stepping closer. Because fear is what it wants. Don't give it what it wants. I wanted to argue, to throw something, scream, anything, but I couldn't. Because the mirror wasn't done. Its surface rippled, and behind my reflection I saw something else. My childhood room, my parents' voices, the sound of a belt snapping, and a little girl crying. Me. The smell of cigarette ash filled the air. My stomach turned. Rose caught me before I hit the floor. Leela, listen to me. That's not real. It feels real. I know. Fight it anyway. The mirror laughed, a sound like shattering glass and mocking applause. For one heartbeat, my entire world split into fragments. Memories, screams, Crow's smirk, all flashing like broken film. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, Rose was sitting on the floor beside my bed, head bowed in prayer, hands still trembling. The room reeked of smoke and burnt sage. How long? I rasped. 13 hours. Ugh, that's practically a spa nap, she ground. You stopped breathing. Twice. I blinked. Oh. Her tone softened, barely. You were clawing at your chest like you were trying to pull something out. I looked down. The pendant burned faintly against my skin, pulsing in time with my heart. I think it was trying to get in. Rose reached for her rosary. Then we seal it out. No more half measures. The ritual prep started immediately. Chalk lines, salt rings, silver bowls. Rose muttered prayers while I scrolled through old exorcism notes on my phone, hands shaking so badly I could barely type. The mirror on the desk was still covered, but I could feel it watching, pressing against my skull, whispering, You're not the hero. You're just the vessel. I ignored it, barely. Rose's voice was steady. Solomon said if this thing keeps feeding, it'll rewrite your timeline. You'll vanish piece by piece until nothing's left. Yeah, I've been feeling that. Pretty sure I misplaced my spleen an hour ago. Rosie. I'm sorry. I sighed. Sarcasm is my coping mechanism. You know that. She smirked faintly. And holy water is mine. Ready? I nodded. Born ready, dying faster. We lit the candles, the room filled with the scent of myrrh and ozone, the kind of charged stillness that makes your teeth hurt. Rose began chanting, Latin words I knew well enough to echo, but I couldn't quite focus on. The pendant burned hot against my chest. Then the sheet fluttered. The mirror uncovered itself, slow and deliberate, as if unveiling a corpse. And there I was, my reflection smiling with Crow's eyes. My voice came from the glass, wrong and doubled. Do you really think she can save you? She's just your replacement. Rose shouted another verse, louder, her voice cracking with power. The candles blazed white. The air thrummed. I screamed as something yanked me forward, my reflection trying to pull me in. For 1 second, I saw everything. Crow is standing inside the mirror's world, arms open, my childhood self beside him, whispering, Stay, you belong here. Then Rose's hand gripped my wrist, strong and unyielding. Leela, don't you dare! I snapped back into my body, gasping. The mirror shattered inward, shards scattering like black feathers. Silence. Then I laughed, breathless, half mad. Well, that was new. Rose slumped beside me, panting. You almost disappeared. Yeah, but not yet. I looked at the shards glinting on the floor. each one reflecting a different version of me, younger, older, broken, whole. One of them whispered, almost kindly, "You can't destroy what you are." I crushed it under my boot. That night I lay awake, unable to sleep. The pendant pulsed faintly, sinking to my heartbeat again, less hostile now, like it was waiting. Rose slept in the chair, one hand still clutching her rosary. She'd stayed, even when everyone else ran. For once, I didn't feel the urge to joke. I just whispered, "Thanks, partner." The window glass flickered. My reflection smiled. Not Crow this time. Just me. Tired, bruised, alive. For the first time, I realized the mirror didn't just show what haunted me, it showed what refused to die. By dawn, I was sitting at my desk, the pendant resting against the scattered shards. Each fragment shimmered faintly, like an unfinished sentence. I picked one up, its edges cold against my skin. "All right, Crow. You want balance? Let's make it personal." Behind me, Rose stirred. "What was that?" I smiled, tired, but sharp. "Nothing. Just planning to pick a fight with a demon." She rubbed her eyes. "Again?" "Yeah." I pocketed the shard. "This time, I'm finishing it." I don't remember the last time I slept properly. When I did, the dreams bled through the walls like mildew, peeling wallpaper, black water dripping from mirrors that weren't even there. At some point, I stopped flinching. Fear's exhausting, and I had bills to pay. Rose said I looked like I wrestled a poltergeist. I told her I won. She didn't laugh. That's when I knew it was bad. The mirror wasn't content with haunting reflections anymore. It wanted presence, to be seen, worshipped, maybe fed. I'd catch glimpses of it in my laptop screen, in the Windows gloss, in my phone camera, my own face blinking half a second late. At first, I blamed sleep deprivation. But the longer it went, the more deliberate it felt. The thing was studying me, waiting for me to look long enough for it to breathe through. So I stopped looking, covered every reflective surface in the apartment with scarves, pages from an old Bible, even tinfoil. Rose called it the ugliest exorcist decor she'd ever seen. "Maybe the demon will leave out of embarrassment," she muttered as she sat cross-legged on my couch, holy water in one hand and a croissant in the other. "I'm counting on it," I said, reloading my salt gun like a manic barista prepping espresso shots. But deep down, I knew the mirror wasn't embarrassed. It was hungry. It wanted the same thing Crow did, the exchange, my strength, my luck, my future, all the glittering currency of the living. Every time I resisted, it twisted the knife. The first time it spoke again, it used Solomon's voice. "Leela, my child, you've always been so strong." My heart dropped. My phone screen was black, but his reflection smiled anyway. The voice wasn't warm. It was cold, brittle, echoing with something hollow underneath. "You can't fight what you touched." I slammed the phone against the wall so hard that the case split. Rose jumped. "Jesus, Leela." "It's not him," I snapped. "He wouldn't say that. He calls me a brat, not child." She didn't argue. Rose knew better than anyone. The moment you start explaining the supernatural, it knows you're listening. That night, I burned sage until the apartment smelled like a forest fire, recited the purification rites Solomon taught us, and poured blessed salt water into every crack in the floor. My hand shook. My chest hurt. But my voice never faltered. I wasn't scared anymore. Just angry. I told the mirror, or the air, or whatever was listening, "You picked the wrong woman. I've been haunted since preschool. You're just louder." The lights flickered in response. A low hum vibrated through the room, the kind that makes your teeth hurt. "You've already traded, little psychic," it whispered. "You touched me. I took your light." I laughed hoarse and bitter. "Then you're choking on it." The air went cold. The mirror, the real one, the black glass antique I had locked in a salt circle, started to fog from the inside. The reflection didn't show my room anymore. It showed him, Crow, in his immaculate suit, eyes bottomless and grin surgical. "Still fighting?" he purred. "You were always my favorite." I spit. "You're a parasite in designer shoes. You killed people for luck and called it business." He tilted his head. "And you sell hope for money. We're not so different." That one hit harder than it should have. For a second, I felt that old tremor of doubt, the guilt I kept buried under sarcasm. But then I remembered every client I saved, every spirit I banished, every nightmare I refused to bow to. I wasn't like him. I said, "You drain, I heal. You steal, I earn." The mirror cracked, a hairline fracture running down its middle. Crow's grin faltered, twisting into something darker, maybe disappointment. "You think this is your choice? You think you can refuse the exchange?" I already did. The lights burst. Every bulb in the apartment shattered at once, plunging us into darkness. Rose screamed my name, but I was already moving, hands out, instincts roaring louder than fear. The mirror pulsed, black light and smoke and whispers too fast to separate. I grabbed it with both hands, the heat searing my palms. If it wanted a trade, it could have mine, on my terms. I poured every ounce of energy, every scar and memory and shard of stubbornness into the thing. Not fear, will. "You can't have my soul," I said through gritted teeth, "but you can choke on my rage." It screamed, the kind of sound that splits reality for a heartbeat. The glass, spiderwebbed, splintered, and exploded into a cloud of black dust. And then, silence. When the smoke cleared, Rose was on her knees, staring at me like she wasn't sure if I was alive. My palms were bleeding, my heart hammering, but I was still standing. The mirror was gone. Completely. No shards, no reflection, just the faint smell of ozone and burnt sugar. Rose whispered, "What did you do?" "I invoiced it," I said, voice shaking, "and overcharged." She laughed, half hysterical, half relieved. "You're insane!" "Professionally," I said. Later that night, when Rose finally fell asleep on my couch, I sat alone in the dark. My reflection on the window looked normal, tired, alive, human. But somewhere deep inside, I could still feel the mirror's echo, like something unfinished, waiting. Crow was gone. But evil never really dies. It just finds new glass. And if it ever came back, I'd be ready, even if I had to fight it in my own reflection. By the time the sun started bleeding over the skyline, I'd lost track of how long I'd been sitting there. The mirror was gone, but the silence it left behind felt heavier than any haunting. Rose was asleep on the couch, one leg thrown over the armrest, clutching a half-empty bottle of holy water like it was a teddy bear. The girl could survive the apocalypse with caffeine and holy water alone. My phone buzzed weakly on the counter. The screen lit up with a name that made something in my chest unclench. Father Solomon. I hesitated before answering. The man could sense guilt across dimensions. "Sweet child," he said. "You sound exhausted." "Define exhausted. If I blink too long, I might disintegrate. Does that count?" He chuckled softly, the kind of laugh that always made me feel 12 again, sitting in his cluttered study, surrounded by incense and half-burnt candles. "I heard the veil tremble last night," he said. "I take it you were the reason." "Depends," I said. "If the veil's filing a complaint, I'd like to plead temporary possession." He hummed thoughtfully. "And the mirror?" "Gone. Dust. Possibly offended beyond repair." A pause, long enough for the weight of everything unsaid to settle. "I knew you'd endure," Solomon said finally. "You always do. But, Lila," his tone softened, "strength isn't only in fighting, It's in knowing when to let someone help. I smiled faintly, tracing the cracks on my bandaged palm. I'll keep that in mind, Father, right after my next exorcism and therapy session. My naughty brat, he sighed, but his voice was fond. Rest while you can. Darkness doesn't stay still for long. The line clicked dead, leaving behind that familiar mix of comfort and inevitability. Rose stirred, rubbing her eyes. Was that Solomon? Yeah, I said. He sends his love, and implied I need a nap before I die again. She snorted. Good advice! You look like death's intern. Flattered, I said. Coffee? Before she could answer, her phone started buzzing on the table. She groaned, picked it up, and immediately made the kind of face you make when you realize a headache has just been born. Oh, Lord. It's Jenny. Your cousin? I asked. What's she done now? Rose mouthed, pray for me, before answering. Hey, Jen! What's up? I could hear the muffled voice, even without speaker mode. High-pitched, frantic, and deeply unserious. Wait. You bought what? Rose said, sitting up straight. A doll from a street vendor that blinked at you? Rose's voice hit a new octave. Jenny, that's not cute. No, don't feed it. She hung up and stared at me with a look that was equal parts horror and resignation. I raised an eyebrow. Don't tell me. Kirstall, she said flatly. She named it Muffin. Because of course she did. Rose groaned, dragging a hand down her face. We're going to have to handle this, aren't we? Probably, I said, finishing my cold coffee. Let's just hope Muffin doesn't blink twice before we get there. She groaned. I hate dolls. Good, I said, standing and grabbing my coat. Then you'll love this job. Outside, the morning light felt sharper, cleaner, like the world had reset just enough for one more day. The mirror was gone, but the hunt never really ended. Not for people like us. I glanced at my reflection in the window before we left, pale, tired, but mine again. Round 2, I muttered, smirking at my own shadow. Let's see what kind of nightmare Muffin turns out to be. And just like that, the next story began.